Welcome to the Fortified Life podcast, where we learn how to develop a dependency on Jesus in the marketplace. From the boardroom to the bathroom, God is with you. Here's our host, author, speaker, teacher, encourager, stewardship coach, and my husband, the man they call Mr. Fortified, Jason Davis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jason Davis, a.k.a. Mr. Fortified. We're back for another episode of the Fortified Life podcast, where we are passionate about developing a dependency on Jesus in the marketplace. Every single week, we bring on dynamic business owners, influencers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and people in corporate that are actively living out their faith in the work that they do. And it's no different on this week's episode, and I'm really excited to have this individual on. He had done a presentation at my church and just really embodies the message of kingdom stewardship. But before I bring him on, let me introduce him to you. Troy Young has over 30 years experience in the financial services industry. A significant portion of that time was with two of the nation's largest financial services organizations, Bank of America and Citigroup. His career work also included an advisory position with Financial Planning Advisory Services. For the past 12 years, Troy has been providing wealth management, financial advisory, and financial planning services and private practice as an independent financial advisor through Destiny Financial Group. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Fortified Life podcast, Mr. Troy Young. Troy, what's going on, sir?
Hey there, Jason. It's a pleasure being on your show. Thank you for this opportunity to just be a part of what you're doing for the kingdom.
Absolutely. Well, Troy, with your flourishing background that God has allowed you to have in the marketplace, you've got a number of different designations. You worked at a lot of different groups, but just kind of take it back and chronicle your experience for us. So you've got stops at BOA, Citigroup, Financial Planning Advisory Services, but we know that there is a lot more to the story in between all those moves. So how did God bring you along from those stops on the journey to where you are now at Destiny Financial Group?
So it's an interesting story, Jason. So I'm a 1988 graduate of Howard University, and my degree is in accounting. And coming out of Howard, I had an opportunity to stay in D.C. or go home. And I did a T-chart, strengths and weaknesses of what job I wanted to take coming out of college. So decided to go back home to Riviera Beach, Florida. Or most people may be familiar with West Palm Beach, Palm Beach County. And worked there with what was then called Barnett Bank, which was the largest bank in the state of Florida. And coming on close to 10 years in service with Barnett Bank, and I say B of A because Barnett Bank was acquired by Nations Bank and became Bank of America. So that was the evolution in my earlier career. And I can remember speaking with the then president of our local affiliate. And it's like, as a young man, and you're probably no different than most of us, right? We used to take a lot of different risks, right? The different, things we take that really could possibly kill us, right? Whether you're running, darting across the street in front of cars, we had a train track that separated neighborhoods. We would try to, do stupid stuff. And the Lord really just kind of challenged me, said, you're taking risks on things like that when you're a young man. And now that you're older, you're not taking risks. And you may know the song, the lyrics was, or the hook was, "Will those who come behind you find you faithful?" And so I started questioning my role at the bank and started to look at, it doesn't take a whole lot of faith to do what I'm doing right now. So I looked to either go to graduate school and then I started looking at getting my CFP. And so, in applying and trying to figure this all out, you had to write down what your goals would be if you got an MBA. And so I wrote down that I wanted to have my own financial planning and advisory firm when I'm thinking about going to get my MBA. That door didn't open up, right? But somehow or another in the mail, I got something from University of South Florida tell me about this CFP program that they had. So it's like, okay, I could go into debt, maybe trying to go get my MBA, or I can look at the CFP program and get a certification that's going to put me in line with what God really placed on my heart to do. So while still at the bank, I started studying for the CFP. And I was looking to go into wealth management while at the bank. And without putting anybody on blast, I'll just say it this way. I was not given the opportunity. That's the best. I was not given the opportunity.
Right.
But I was, I went through a leadership program, and the gentleman that was in the leadership program was with Smith Barney, which at that time had become a subsidiary of Citigroup. I was able to get an interview with Smith Barney, left the bank, and joined Smith Barney as a financial advisor. And this was in 1988 that I joined them. 1998 that I joined Smith Barney, went through all the testing, and became a licensed advisor with Smith Barney and started production in February of '99. And so going from the banking world where I was salaried and vice president, a lot of good things happening at that point, but I just wasn't feeling good about my purpose in selling debt to people. My job was to put people in debt. Mm-hmm. And whether or not it was the best for them or not, that was my interpretation of my responsibility. And I just didn't feel comfortable with that and not lining it with my goal and purpose of, helping people steward and manage the resources that they have. Fast forward through that, currently married for 30 years. Me and my wife, our first child was born the month that my production started with Smith Barney. And we ended up moving from Tampa, Florida to Atlanta. And through divine intersections, right? Because, the Bible doesn't say anything, God doesn't talk about coincidence, but it was divine intersections that led me to meet somebody who knew somebody who met somebody else through them. And in 2004, literally, I'm coming up on, it was Thanksgiving week of 2004, where I left Smith Barney and went on the independent side of the financial services arena. And so, writing that goal of having my own financial planning firm, it took some time, some different directions, not anything that I could have scripted myself, but here it is now, 19 years, right? It'd be 19 years that I've been an independent financial advisor under the banner of Destiny Financial Group for now the last, 15 years. So there was a partnership in there for a part of the time from like 2004 till 2008. But I'm still independent. And then from there, 2008, right at the Great Recession, we went completely out where now is, operating completely and under Destiny Financial Group.
Wow. Troy, you said a couple of things. Thank you for sharing that, your story. And there, God, certainly, there's no coincidence, just divine connection and providence. You talked about when you were at the bank, it didn't really take a lot of faith to do what you were doing, or at least I think that's how you said it. What made you arrive at that moment? Like, you know what, there's just more. How did you get to that point?
So, talking with clients, right? I had business owners that were clients. I'm an avid golfer, not necessarily a good golfer, Jason, but I'm an avid golfer. So just several conversations was taking place at the same time. So I was looking at my clients. I was like, okay, really, what separates me from them? And they're at different levels in their businesses. It's like, you know what? I have the knowledge. I'm coaching them on how to do certain things. They just had the faith, the chutzpah, whatever term we want to use, but they had the faith to go out there and take risks and work in their craft. Mm-hmm. So it was that, not feeling comfortable with selling debt. People with a job was to put people in debt. There's good uses of credit and all, which I think you probably agree, but good or bad, that's what I was that was the criteria I was measured against, is how many people you put in debt. Then also, it was a unique opportunity where I met this older gentleman who told me his story, where he quit his job the day before he got married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he said, Jason, it floored me. He said he didn't want another man determine and dictate what happened in his household.
Mm.
And so he went out and started his own business. This is going back, in the 40s and 50s. And at one point, he was known as, if not the largest landowner as far as African American in the state that he lived in, but definitely one of the wealthiest African Americans in the state that he lived in, starting from originally selling fruit and pantyhose.
Wow.
What he did to support his family. And then he grew into, a very successful enterprise, doing a lot of different things. So combination of those things just kind of challenged me where I was at that point. And then I even looked at my own family history. I said, okay, where's the entrepreneurs in my family? And my grandmother on my mother's side was a hairdresser. And she put my mother and my aunt through college, as a hairstylist. My grandfather on my dad's side was he had his own landscaping business, did work on, one of my first jobs was pulling limbs from the palm trees in Palm Beach and putting them on the trash pile and making sure that the mansions over there, that the yards were immaculate. Right. And so I said, okay, you know what? There is some history here of taking risks in entrepreneurship. And that's just kind of led me to step out. And unfortunately, too, my wife, now 30 years, supported that vision, that decision. And, and here we are right now.
Wow. I love that, Troy. You kind of set up where you are now today with Destiny Financial. And I have a feeling that name was very intentional, by the way, Destiny. Yeah. But Troy, as we get into some of your experience, you all have a style that's comprehensive, and we know there's a lot of different models out there financially. But when you say comprehensive planning for your firm, for the listeners, just break that down for us. And then we'll talk about a couple of your designations, specifically the CFP and the CKA, because I think that was huge, just kind of how that differentiates what you do versus some other people out there in the market.
Sure. So in the way of comprehensive planning, there's, we like numbers, and people can tend to count, in things that we remember. So we'll use alliteration for one, right? So we got 4 L's that we cover with our clients, and those 4 L's, which tends to fall into priorities and important pieces for anyone that has goals. That is, the first L is lifestyle. Okay, what is the lifestyle you want to live in and or live going into retirement? What's your current lifestyle? The second L is longevity. None of us want to outlive our money. So what's the plan and what's the strategy that you will not outlive your money? And then the third is liquidity. So Jason, we this is not our first rodeo, right? So, we know that emergencies happen. And so how do you build liquidity into a plan that you have cash to fall back on and not debt or not credit, or possibly not having to depend on family or loved ones to deal with life's eventual circumstance or emergencies. Mm-hmm. And the fourth is legacy. We all will have. We're not taking anything with us. So, and according to my understanding, right, you have 3 choices of who you're going to leave things behind to. It's going to be either those you love, it may be a charity, or it's going to be the Uncle Sam, right? Those are the 3 options. So what is your legacy going to be from a financial perspective, and how do you plan for that? So those, those 4 L's is lifestyle, longevity, liquidity, and legacy. So we try to cover those 4 general components that most people can embrace and understand. Then we also talk about the five bases, which may get into the more technical jargon in the financial service arena. So that's, cash flow planning or income planning. Then there's investment management. There's risk management, kind of goes into the whole insurance components, where you're talking about long-term care, life insurance, healthcare, things like that. Then there's tax management. Then there's estate planning. So those five are what we call the five bases. So you got the four L's and you got the five bases, but that's what we tend to address with our clients when we talk about comprehensive planning.
Gotcha. I love that 4x5. Folks, we'll have everything. By the way, we'll have the links in the show notes. So if you're like, oh man, what was that again? We have the beauty of listening to things on replay and on demand. So don't you worry. Now, Troy, you, in terms of being a comprehensive planner, you have the CFP, and that's considered the gold standard in the industry. What does being a CFP or having that designation allow you to do that maybe some other firms just simply can't do?
Well, the CFP, requires me to take a fiduciary perspective in anything that we provide and recommend to our clients. So, and that's been the standard that I've operated on for over 20 years since I've had the designation. The industry has come to that with different regulations, what they call the Reg BI, which is best interest. But as a fiduciary, my role and responsibility is to look out for our clients' best interests first and foremost before anything, as far as compensation for Troy or for our business. So that fiduciary role is there. And so with the CFP, there's requirements, right? 30 credit hours of continuing education every year. So we have to keep our knowledge base very current on what's happening in the marketplace, and making sure that we have that knowledge and bring that knowledge to our clients each and every day, whether it's call, email, text, whatever the situation may be, to address them. There's, and my approach too, Jason, is, and no offense against other professionals that may have other business models, but my approach is I like to have a variety of tools in my toolbox, because no two clients are exactly alike. So with the CFP, it gives me the knowledge of how to use those different tools to build the plan and strategy for each individual client, whether it's an insurance need, a retirement need, a disability need, long-term care. It's not a one-size-fits-all or one product that has to fit all people. Now, you may have heard the saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. Right.
Right.
So I don't like to take that approach, and I don't take the approach with my client, because we have a variety of tools to help them within. The CFP has informed me and trained me on how to use those different tools for the betterment and stewardship of the resources that of clients that God brings to me to service.
Folks, if you're listening to Troy, listen, CFPs, they put in the time. So you're getting someone that's staying current on all the financial trends and information out there. Now, Troy, what's really exciting, and I just happen to know about this designation just from being kind of in the stewardship circle, but what I think is really cool from a financial planning perspective is being able to inject your faith values. And so I'm talking about the CKA, the Certified Kingdom Advisor. And this is probably something that had been asked for years in the industry. And so just with the various groups coming together, I know Ron Blue and others heavily involved, but just talk about that extra level of, hey, this isn't just about zeros and ones and saving and debt. We looking at the faith and the eternal perspective with money. Talk about the just the process of the CKA and how that allows you to have deeper conversations with clients.
Yes. a lot of thoughts running through my head, Jason, just when we even talk about the track of getting here with the CKA. But yeah, so, Ron Blue started the organization several years ago. I've taught Crown Financial when Larry Burkett was alive. I've done Dave Ramsey, and now, being able to have a professional designation that is now recognized in the industry is huge, because going back to one of those previous positions I had with another company, I remember wanting to grow my business by doing Christian-based financial seminars. And I remember being in Tampa, Florida, and there was a curriculum that was already prepackaged, right? And so I'm sending it up to compliance to get it approved. This is the, late 90s. And Jason, that thing came back so quick, not approve. It just floored me. Jeez. And it was the late 90s, where they wouldn't allow you to have those conversations. Fast forward to today, where most wirehouses and most firms do allow do recognize the CKA designation and would allow their advisors to talk to their clients and or customers about within the Christian framework, right? And so we talk about CKA recognizing, and one of the principles that God owns it all, right? Yeah. And we are just stewards of it. And so how do you steward that? And it's not always about just return on assets, even just return on money, but return on life. What is the purpose of this money that you have? And how do you steward it? How do you look to put your values in your investment decisions, right? And or apply those values in how those assets will be managed, and making sure that the next generation is prepared, right? So it's talking about, okay, it's not just about you, but you're going to leave some things behind. You are going to leave it behind. So are you training and preparing the next generation to be a steward? Because imagine, client maybe, multi-million dollars or a large life insurance policy, and you're leaving that to a kid or a individual or organization that don't believe in what you believe in, right? And so going through that process and that conversation with clients that, okay, and real life situation where, okay, if you have a loved one who may be dealing with drugs, right? Are they prepared to inherit, thousands, or in some cases, possibly millions of dollars? The charities that you like, are you leaving, money to those charities that support your beliefs, whether it's expanding the kingdom, or is it, something that may be totally different against your values? But talking through that and having those conversations with clients and bringing in biblical principles, recognizing right now, at my church, our church, pastors talking about, rich, right? So in different components, and recognizing that we in the Western world, we are considered rich worldwide, even though we may compare ourselves to wealthy people. But with the richness that we have, the question is, how do we manage that? And bringing in biblical principles to talk with clients about that when they're, when they have a heart towards that. Talking through, okay, the principle of sowing and reaping, tithes and offerings, being a channel of your blessings versus a reservoir of those blessings, and being able to have those conversations with clients, and today, and being independent, being able to have those conversations freely. I remember, again, previously I was not able to comfortably pray with clients, right? Where now, if a client is comfortable with that, I can do that. Whereas, when I had operating on a different banner as far as a corporation, that was taboo. And so, bringing the Christian principles, the Word of God, into those conversations is something we can do freely. And the CKA allows me to, because we have continuing education with them as well. There's requirements to maintain that designation, a certain amount of hours of study and or webinars. We do a conference every year in Orlando. I remember the first conference I went to, there may have been maybe 200 to maybe 300 advisors. This past February, there's over 2,000.
My God!
From all parts of the world.
Wow!
Right, and you still have sharp good stewards of information. You have some of the best economists in the world who come in and speak to us. You have specialists in all different areas that help us sharpen our pencil to be bring that knowledge, practical and biblical, to our clients on a daily basis.
Well, Troy, the combo of the CFP and the CKA, that's definitely a big differentiator for clients. And folks, as you're listening, if that aligns with your values, we'll talk about contact information later, but definitely stay in touch and keep up with what Troy and Destiny Financial are doing. Now, Troy, as I understand it, you are an author as well, and I couldn't leave the show without talking about your book, because we talked about grad school, CFPs, you got all these designations. When did the author aspect of things come into play? And folks, what I'm talking about, Troy is the author of The Journey, an African American woman's roadmap to independence. How did that come about, Troy, and what made you so passionate about finance, especially with regards to women?
Well, I grew up in a household with a strong mother. Both mom and dad were in the house, but a strong mother. And just looking at the impact that women had in my life, for one, and recognizing, most guys, you're watching, whether it's LeBron James, different athletes, they're giving the shout out to the moms, right? Yeah. And so, and in my client base, there's a significant portion of my client base that are women, single, widowed, from 24, thinking of my daughter, on up to, clients in there. I had one that just turned 93 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And so recognizing the importance of women and just my interaction with women over my career, said, let me take some of the stories, experiences that I've had, and how can you impact more people in the fastest way? And that would be a book. I mean, if I could talk to everyone that could probably buy the book, I don't think there's enough time to do that. But being able to share those stories and share 30 years or so of experience and putting it in a book, that's $20, right? Or if it's Kindle, you're talking, $10. So an inexpensive way to get that experience. And recognizing, too, I alluded to my daughter. I'm fortunate to have a 24-year-old daughter. I have a sister, I have a mother. So there's women around in all different components. And I jokingly call my sister my one and only, because she is the only sister that I have. But being able to see the impact that, and this may not always be agreed by many people, Jason, but it appears to me, so goes our women, so goes our community. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, I know, Scripture has our roles, right? Men under God, under Christ, and then our women. But our women play such a certain role, even in encouraging and invigorating us as men. Mm-hmm. And if we can empower them, what influence they can have on the rest of society. Mm. And, we know the statistics, right?
Right.
How many men are in the household? We can talk all day about, society and how that's impacted men in households completely, but the facts are what they are. So I feel that if I can empower, encourage, and educate women on just the roadmap, just to strengthen them in that stewardship component, it can make a difference for the kingdom long term.
Mm. That's powerful, Troy. Where can people grab a copy of The Journey?
So The Journey is being offered on Amazon. You do The Journey under, Troy A. Young, and it's a paperback. You can get the Kindle version for like $10 and or the paperback for $20. We will be coming out with the audio version by the end of the year. So we have had it recorded. We're just working through some of the details. Then we'll be releasing it under Audible by the end of the year. So you can listen while doing your exercise or walking or riding in the car. And if you're in a place like Atlanta where you have time and traffic, maybe something just to give you some knowledge while you're fighting traffic.
You're right about that, Troy. Time and traffic. See, folks, people debut and give us the insider info here on the Fortified Life. Troy, before we go, and folks, show notes are available at jerichoforce.com/podcast. So we'll have the show notes and we'll have all links to Troy's book, Destiny Financial, and other resources. So make sure you check that out, jerichoforce.com/podcast. But Troy, before we let you go, we're in Q4 of 2023. This is about the time where a lot of people are, maybe sometimes business is slowing down, but they're certainly looking at goals and projections and things for 2024. So what are you most excited about going into the new year?
Well, new year, new opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. So in the way of closing out 2024, 23, I naturally, personally look to, start business planning. What are my goals? What are my objectives? And so in 24, we're looking for, activities that will be doing more educational events, with the book and with the audio coming out. We're going to be doing more things online as well as YouTube. So we're putting together a lot of content to be able to take to people. And similar to what you're doing here, Jason, we realize that it's not all about reading, but it'll be short clips. We now are approved to do things on Instagram, whereas literally 60 days ago, as an advisor, I couldn't have an Instagram page, right? Wow. Yeah, and so between Instagram, be able to do some things on YouTube, put more content on YouTube channel. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, but being able to do more of like what we're doing here, more audio and possibly visual tools to put information in the hands of those whose voice, who are drawn to my voice, right? And so we recognize that, I heard a motivation speaker say, where Christ talked about, people will hear his voice and his sheep will come to him, based upon recognize that. And I realized that my voice may be appropriate for certain people, but not for everyone. So we're just trying to be out there and share our voice with more people, and hopefully, those who come will be encouraged, empowered, and as well as educated to become better stewards of the resources that they've been entrusted with. So that's one thing we're very excited about for 24.
Love that. And folks, don't miss that business nugget. Your voice may not be for everyone, but it is for someone. There's a little nugget of gold in there. Troy, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us on the Fortified Life podcast. This has been a great episode, and I believe all the information and wisdom that you've shared and sharing about your life and what God is doing in your life, both as a person and a business owner. We thank you for sharing that knowledge here on the show.
Well, thank you, Jason. And, I'll close with a quote that I learned a few years ago, actually through Kingdom Advisors. Mm-hmm. It's easier to prepare than it is to repair. So as you are looking out there and making your plans for 24 in the audience, preparation is better than repairing. So plan for your goals and opportunities. Write it down. Habakkuk tells us, write the vision, make it plain, and it will come at a time, and that time will be appointed. So use this time and opportunity to plan your 24, and trust and pray that God will fulfill that opportunity, those goals for you.
Amen. That's Habakkuk 2:2.
Yes, sir.
Well, folks, that's all we have time for this week on the Fortified Life. Make sure you check out the show notes at jerichoforce.com/podcast, and you'll be able to reach Troy and his team. Folks, you know how we end things. Don't conform to the world's way of doing business. Transform by doing business God's way. Don't compartmentalize your faith in the marketplace, and from the boardroom to the bathroom. God is with you. We'll see you next time on the Fortified Life podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fortified Life podcast. You can catch us live on Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and on demand. Check out FortifiedLifePodcast.com for more details. To learn how to live out your faith in the marketplace, grab a copy of Jason Davis's book, Fortified, Being Rooted in God's Plan for Work and Business, available on Amazon.
You're listening to Doers Live Worldwide Podcast.